Hello, this is Jeff Emerson with True Freedom Recovery Yoga. And True Freedom Recovery Yoga is a nonprofit organization under the umbrella of Apolisya Karen. And the board of Apolisya Karen asked me to read daily reading things and send it out on Instagram and maybe YouTube. And so I thought I would do that starting today, and we'll see where it goes. I send these out and as a way of showing how recovery and yoga philosophy come together so well. And so this is January 11th, the exact nature of our disease. In the first step, especially after the first round of doing the steps, we start looking at the more subtle aspects of our disease, of addiction. The first time through the steps, one might think we are powerless over the substance of our addiction. While the substance is only a symptom of our disease, it is true that we are powerless over the substance, and it always makes our lives unmanageable. On the other rounds through the steps, we look deeper into what is driving force of our disease. If we look at the term disease, we have an indication that we are not at ease. What is the cause of this dis-ease? If we can get to the roots of this, we can more easily stay away from the substance that caused such destruction in our lives. For me, in this new adventure through the steps, I am looking at the anxiousness and despair. When I feel either of those things, I have a sense that I need to change something, and I often look outside myself to do that. While when I was using, this was drugs that I would take to make those changes. Now without the drugs, I may use shopping or anger or something else. I may use my false sense of control over people or circumstances to exert power and soothe these feelings of anxiousness and despair. This is what I see as a core of my disease. That I am powerless over these feelings of anxiousness and despair, and they can make my life unmanageable, but only if I act out on those feelings. If I can recognize and notice that my disease is active and do not do anything that is against my principles because of them, the feelings go away, just like my obsessions. Yoga and Buddhist thought both recognize that all things change. The principle of equanimity is seeing the feelings and making mindful choices about what to do with those emotions. This differentiates addiction from recovery. Can we see the disease without being controlled by it? The more we can watch our feelings pass without clinging to them, the more comfortable we can become with the process. Just as the clouds that pass by are not disturbed or do not disturb the sky. And thought for today, I will observe my disease without getting caught up in it or act out on the impulses it calls for. And so with this reading, talking about the core of the addiction that is fueling all my life, the feeling of anxiousness, and maybe you classify it as fear, but the anxiousness of not being right, that people don't appreciate me, and those kind of things, the anxiousness of that something needs to change. And while using, of course, the drugs and alcohol and all those kind of things were what I use to soothe over or to change those feelings, that I can control the use of my alcohol, but I couldn't change the underlying anxiousness. And then also the despair, thinking that nothing's ever going to change, that things are not going to be the same, and there's nothing I can do about it, the powerlessness of life. And I was using powerlessness, but in a wrong way. I get in recovery and I use powerlessness. I'm powerless over my disease. So I'm powerless over the idea of anxiousness. I've had it all my life. I'm In Ayurveda, we'd say I'm Vata Pitta of constitution. So that's part of my makeup. So I'm going to have anxiousness. And that anxiousness is a Rajic, in Ayurveda, again, the three gunas of Sattva, Raja, and Tamas. There's a more Rajic feel to it. And well, it is Rajic, anxiousness is Raja. And Raja often depletes itself and goes into Tamas. And Tamas is darkness and despair. And so one feeds the other. I feel a sense of despair, so I have even more anxiousness. And it becomes a circle that goes around and around, and it's present even after, many years in recovery. But I don't act out on it, but I can act out on other ways to dealing with that. And it becomes more subtle, but I act out in ways like I try to control people, or my codependency is there, or I get I ignore it by shopping these days and those kind of things, and buying things that I really don't need. But that retail recovery, as my old sponsor used to say, is a nice hit. And it kind of overrides that anxiousness. Now I have something to look forward to, and life looks a little better. Once that Amazon package comes to the doorstep, now I feel, that dopamine for a moment, and then that goes away, and then I fall back into the anxiousness. And so that is what I'm powerless over, and it certainly makes my life unmanageable. And going through these steps, that is what my focus will be this time. And so I'm on to the first step, and I want to get to the fuel of my addiction. I've done the steps on many different avenues. First it was the drugs and alcohol and those kind of things. But I've done all 12 steps on my anger issues, my not feeling, my my despair, and I've done it before, so maybe if I do it this time, maybe I'll have a little bit more relief. I've done it on, the way I view sisters in recovery and those kind of things. So we can work the 12 steps on different aspects of our disease. And each time we work on them, we get a little bit more free. And of course, what we want at True Freedom Yoga is true freedom. And that's what I'm after. And I'm hopeful by the steps and traditions that I can achieve that. So what I'm doing with this writings is half the month I do steps, and half the month I do traditions. There's 12 months, and there's 12 steps and 12 traditions. So I look at each one of them and how they interweave with yogic philosophy. So hopefully you find that interesting. Remember to come to Truth Freedom Recovery Yoga. We have yoga classes, and then we have a meeting afterwards, and it's not a specific type of meeting. It's not an AA meeting or an NA meeting or an Al-Anon meeting or an R-Anon meeting or a GA meeting or SLA meeting. It's just all those things come together, and we just say our name, say we're in recovery, so there's no conflict there, and we just share. There's no readings or anything like that, and so we have a little more freedom with traditions and things like that, but it's usually not taken for granted, and people respect the traditions while they share. Just a really nice half-hour meeting. So come when you can. We have a lot of different forms of yoga here, and I look forward to seeing you. Thanks for your attention.